Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop, and welcome to part 3 of the violin neck replacement project. Okay, so first of all, apologies for the abrupt ending of part 2. Same thing as usual, getting carried away with what I was doing and what I was saying and forgetting to keep an eye on the time. So right at the end of it, I was talking about the tuning pegs, saying that this is the original tuning peg, and I had lost one of them, but it's irrelevant because they're plastic and I'm replacing them anyway. Then I've got this one in brown, this set in brown, slightly bigger. The button is a bit bigger and it's slightly longer in the shaft. And I've got another black set. Oops. which are slightly bigger again. So if I just compare that to the brown one sec. Oh dear me. Come on, butterfingers. Okay, so again, slightly longer in the shaft, and the button is actually about the same size as that one. So I've got a couple of options there. I would prefer the matching colour, which will be the black one, to the original, and you know, obviously matches all the other hardware on it as well, but we'll see. It doesn't really matter too much, as I've said, because this is not an instrument for sale. It's not a customer's one. It's going to be a student instrument, so long as everything is straight and where it should be and it's playable, I'm not overly bothered about the aesthetics, although I do want it to look as good as possible. You know, it's not all that crucial on this particular instrument. So what I'd done in the previous episode was glued the fingerboard to the neck and clamped it all up, and obviously I let it dry for quite a while. It has come out, I would say, perfect. You know, it's well stuck all the way, unlike, you know, how it came from the factory, where it had a few dabs of what I think was hide glue. I don't know why they still use that stuff. I know it's traditional for violin building, but it's problematic. So, you know, I took the fingerboard off, scraped off all the old glue, sanded it, re-glued it with proper wood glue, and it is absolutely perfect. I mean, we did have a little bit of overhang. The fingerboard is just slightly wider than the neck, but that's deliberate from factory so that you can, you know, sort of shape it nicely, which I've done now. You know, I've filed the edges and sanded it so that it all matches up really nice and smooth both sides. And I was quite surprised, this being so cheap. On one particular side, I can't even remember which side, I had to file off probably about 1 millimeter of overhang, and I thought I was going to go through to, you know, this coloured wood on the fingerboard. I thought it was just, you know, an ordinary piece of wood that's been painted, but it's not. It says ebony. It's not ebony. It's not going to be ebony. It's some kind of black wood. Some kind of rosewood, I'm guessing. I'm not sure, but it's nice. You know, there was also little bits of glue on the fingerboard itself, not from me, and particularly here where the nut joins the fingerboard, there was a little bit of glue. So I've scraped off all the excess glue, sanded it nice and smooth, and now it is absolutely spot on. Ready to fit, really. So yeah, as I said in the previous episode, I was talking about the tuning pegs, and I didn't have time to also talk about the strings. I've got 2 new sets of strings here. Brand is Alice. They make all sorts of musical stuff. Again, you know, they're cheapy ones, but this is a cheap violin. I'm not going to put strings on it that are more expensive than the violin itself. You know, these will be absolutely fine. The original strings, they were rubbish, so they're going to be binned. I've still got them at the moment, and I've actually still got them attached. Oh no, I haven't. I thought I still had them attached to the tailpiece, but I don't, because I've got to try and remind myself which way around the strings went, because you know, left-handed, right-handed guitars, ukuleles, etc. They're easy to work out. I'm guessing it's the same with the violin. I've got to find out that, you know, they'll be strung the same way round as any other right-handed instrument, but I'm not 100% certain on that, so I'll have to have a look into that. But that's by the by. That's not this. We're not at that stage yet. It seems a bit warm in here. Okay, so the neck and fingerboard are, you know, prepared, ready to go on. Again, not final sanding yet. That will be done at a later stage. There's no point doing that yet. So let me just put the light on, and we will turn the camera around. Let me just get this stuff out of the way. 1 second. Okay. So turn the camera around, angle down a bit. Okay. Zoom in just a little bit. Not too much. Okay, so I've got the neck and I've got the violin body. I now have to start to prepare to get the neck into the neck pocket. So another thing I did off camera was I put the shims in now, both sides. So just glued them in place. That wasn't really worth filming. Just a couple of thin strips of wood glued into the sides of the neck pocket, both sides. And as I said, they were about 3/4 of a millimetre thick, or 30 thousandths of an inch. So total 1.5 millimetres, or 60 thousandths of an inch, which, as I said, is still way too thick. But obviously, you know, you start thick and then shim it down. You know, slice it down. Whatever, cut it down. So if I now just put the neck into the neck pocket, squeeze it in as far as it will go, you can see that it's not far off bottoming out. Whereas before, you know, it would go in all the way and it was quite loose, it would wobble about. And that's why I put the shims in. So we're about, I'm going to say 3 to 4 millimetres from home there. So it's not far off. I mean, there's no point trying to wedge it in all the way because something will break. So it's got to be, you know, those shims have got to be sort of thinned down a bit more to allow this to go in. Now, another thing I've done off camera is, you're probably not going to be able to see it, but I've put a pencil mark in the centre of the fingerboard. I've also put a mark on the body of the violin. You probably can't see that, the tiny little mark, which is the centre from the sides measuring across, so that when I put the neck in, I'll make sure that these two marks line up, so that I know that the orientation this way is right. Quite important on any instrument really. Okay, so what to do about, you know, thinning these shims down so that that neck goes all the way in? Well, there's an interesting process for this. Interesting and fairly simple. So what I do is I get a little bit of ordinary carbon paper and I've cut just a very thin strip of it. So what I do, let me just zoom in a little bit more. Let's tilt that down a bit. Okay, so what I do is, and this is not my trick, I've learned this from Jerry Rosa of Rosa String Works in the US. So what you do is you get this thin strip of carbon paper and you put it into the pocket all the way around the edge. So I'm going to just place that in there carefully, get it all lined up inside the neck pocket. Okay. Got to make sure it's all in there nicely. Okay, so that's in there. Now I put the neck into the pocket. Just turn that around a bit so you can see what I'm doing. So that now slides into the pocket. make sure that carbon paper stays against the side. Okay, so I'll push it in as far as it will go, and then I give it a little bit of a wiggle, up and down, side to side, just sort of pressing it in there, wiggle it around a bit, okay, oh that popped out for some reason. Okay, so now I'll take the carbon paper out, and you can see, can you? You can see carbon marks on those shims. Light's awful, terrible. Okay, so you can see the carbon marks on those shims. Now, what I am seeing there is that it's fairly consistent. So wherever you see those carbon marks, that's where you've got to thin some of the shim down. So looking at both of those, they're pretty consistent. There's not like, you know, bumps here and divots there. It's all pretty consistent. So that's a good sign, because that shows me two things. Well, the same thing really, is that the edge of the neck, you can see there's a carbon mark on there as well, the edge of the neck and the edge of these pockets are pretty straight. It's just slightly too small, so I've got to, you know, thin that down. Now you can put the carbon the other way round so that it marks on the neck. Well, it already has marked on the neck here, and take it off the neck, but that's not really the way to do it. Despite this being quite a cheap one, it's pretty well made from the factory, nice and straight and everything. So you take, you know, a little bit of wood off of the inside of the pocket. So using a freshly sharpened chisel, I'm just going to shave off those carbon marks very, very lightly. I'm only taking the slightest top layer off. Literally just, you know, removing enough material that takes the carbon marks off, but no more than that. So literally just a very thin sliver, the very, very top layer. I mean, not even a measurable amount. It's going to be a few thousandths of an inch, you know, a fraction of a millimeter, tiny, tiny amount. Just basically shaving off the top layer. Okay, this chisel probably isn't quite wide enough, but the next one up is too big, so I'll make do with this, it'll be fine. So you've also got to make sure that, you know, you shave off the top layer consistently and evenly, particularly as it's already pretty even. You know, you don't want to take big chunks out anywhere and leave high spots. Try and take a uniform layer off the top. Make sure you get out all the debris, the little wood shavings. Okay, so same the other side. And obviously I'm doing this in a way that you can see what I'm doing. It's not quite so easy for me. Literally just shaving off the top layer. Very, very minimal amount of wood coming off there. Okay. I'm just going to turn it around for myself to see what I'm doing properly. Okay, just scrape out all of the debris. A little bit on the edge there. Okay, so now that I've scraped off that top layer, you can see that the carbon marks have gone and we're down to bare wood again. So I'll repeat the process and see where we are. See how much more I've got to take off. It's not going to take very much. As you saw, you know, it was like 3 or 4 millimeters from home, and that relates to a very, very small amount of wood being shaved off those shims. Very small amount, so that's why I was doing a little bit at a time. It doesn't actually look a lot closer there, but it might be. And, you know, as I said, you want to creep up on it, do a little bit at a time. So, again, back in the pocket. That's not quite in there straight. That's weird. Okay. So, same thing again. Wiggle it around in the pocket. Okay, pull it out. Carbon paper out. And yeah, same thing again. Okay, again, fairly consistent. Whoop. The light is awful here. Okay, so that's what I need to do to make this neck fit the pocket really, really accurately. So I'm going to continue that off camera. You've seen what I'm doing. It's quite a slow process because you have to just do a tiny little piece at a time, a little bit at a time, not go too fast because A, you don't want to overdo it, and B, you don't want to end up with gouges, dips and high spots. You need to try and keep it really level and consistent. So I'm going to finish that off camera, and then once that's done, it will be ready to glue in. So that will be the next video. You know, for doing the painting and the treating and everything, I'm going to do that once it's fitted to the instrument. For sure, it would be easier to do it like this, but I want to do it when it's in there, because certainly down these edges here, you know, there's a little bit of tiny little bit of chip out here and there, so I want to finish that area as well as the heel of the neck, and it will kind of, you know, blend it all in. As I said, I've got some water-based wood stain which is pretty identical to this colour. It might be a shade darker, but it's close enough, so that's really good, and I've had that for a long time, so it's just luckily it's, you know, more or less the same colour. So that's going to be it for part 3. As I said, I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, get it ready to glue in, and that will be in part 4. So, in the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.